The mood on this October 31st morning is both festive and tense. While Americans dress in Halloween costumes and prepare for trick-or-treating, the atmosphere in Washington is anything but playful. The federal government shutdown has dragged on for a month, affecting millions of Americans and raising questions about political strategy, leadership, and the cost of partisan gridlock. Broadcasts from New York to Washington echo with concern, families turning to food banks, federal employees missing paychecks, and airport delays threatening to upend the upcoming holiday travel season. It's a stark contrast, a nation celebrating Halloween while simultaneously confronting one of its most politically haunted moments in years. President Trump has renewed his push for what he calls the nuclear option, urging Senate Republicans to eliminate the filibuster, a long-standing procedural rule requiring a 60-vote threshold to advance legislation. His argument is clear: Democrats have, in his view, gone stone-cold crazy, and drastic measures are needed to break the deadlock. But others warn that removing the filibuster could fundamentally weaken the balance of power in the Senate and set a precedent that either party could later regret. As Washington grapples with this decision, Americans outside the Beltway are living with the daily consequences of political paralysis, from lost income to disrupted services and rising frustration. The situation began as a routine budget standoff but has evolved into a defining moment of political brinkmanship. The federal shutdown has now entered its fourth week, and the economic ripples are widening. Government workers are turning to food banks, SNAP benefits are about to expire, and flight delays are mounting due to staff shortages at airports. It's no longer just a partisan struggle, it's a test of how long the American people can endure the consequences of dysfunction. President Trump's demand for the nuclear option has added a new layer of intensity to the debate. By eliminating the filibuster, the Senate could pass funding bills with a simple majority, effectively allowing Republicans to reopen the government without Democratic votes. Trump argues that Democrats are obstructing progress for political reasons and that bold action is necessary to make America great again. His post on Truth Social summed up his view: it's time for Republicans to play their Trump card and change the rules. But inside the Senate, many Republicans remain cautious. The filibuster is more than a procedural hurdle, it's part of the Senate's identity as a chamber of deliberation and minority protection. Leaders remember past debates when their own party benefited from the 60-vote rule. Abandoning it could open the door for future Democratic majorities to push through their own sweeping agendas without bipartisan consent. It's a short-term fix with long-term risks, and that's why figures like former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy warn against impulsive action. McCarthy described the situation as a Seinfeld shutdown, a shutdown about nothing. He argues that there's no substantive policy dispute driving the stalemate, just political calculation. According to him, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is under pressure to hold his ground before the upcoming November 4th elections, fearing backlash from the Democratic base. Yet, as the economic toll grows, McCarthy predicts that Democrats will eventually cave, perhaps right after the election, to avoid further damage. His view reflects a broader Republican narrative, that Democrats are prolonging the crisis for optics while ordinary Americans bear the cost. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance has taken on a more direct tone, calling for compromise but blaming Democrats for intransigence. Meeting with airline executives at the White House, he warned that a prolonged shutdown could cripple holiday travel and erode public trust. It could be a disaster, Vance said. You talk about people missing 3 paychecks, 4 paychecks, how many of them are not going to show up for work? His message highlights an underlying tension: while the political fight rages in Washington, the logistical and emotional toll on working Americans deepens every day. Outside the Capitol, frustration is palpable. Families dependent on federal aid are stretching every dollar. Federal workers are lining up for assistance, some for the first time in their lives. Travelers face longer waits as air traffic control and TSA staff work understaffed shifts. The broader economy feels the strain as confidence wanes. These effects are not abstract, they are lived experiences that illustrate how policy gridlock trickles down to everyday life. Critics of Trump's strategy argue that calling for the nuclear option only escalates division. The filibuster, they contend, encourages negotiation and prevents one-party dominance. Removing it might solve an immediate problem but would erode a guardrail of American democracy. Supporters, on the other hand, insist that Democrats are already weaponizing procedural rules to stall governance. They see Trump's move as a necessary countermeasure to years of obstructionism. Both sides claim to defend democracy, yet their definitions of it diverge sharply. The larger question looming over this standoff is about governance itself. Has Washington reached a point where winning the political argument outweighs serving the public good? McCarthy and others suggest that after the election, political pressure will subside, creating space for pragmatic compromise. But history offers a sobering reminder: every shutdown, no matter how brief, leaves behind economic scars and political resentment. Whether it was 1995, 2013, or 2019, these episodes rarely produce long-term policy victories. They do, however, deepen the sense of cynicism among voters who watch leaders argue while paychecks stop and services halt. In the backdrop, the upcoming elections add urgency to every move. Democrats fear appearing weak if they concede too early, while Republicans worry about being blamed for chaos. The shutdown has become both a policy impasse and a political weapon, each party trying to convince the public that the other is responsible. Yet polls increasingly suggest that Americans are not choosing sides, they are simply tired. Tired of brinkmanship, tired of rhetoric, and tired of being collateral damage in Washington's endless power struggles. As the days pass, speculation grows that Schumer might finally agree to reopen the government after the elections. If that happens, the standoff may end, but the underlying divisions will remain. The shutdown, like so many before it, reflects deeper structural issues: a polarized Congress, a divided electorate, and a system struggling to adapt to the demands of modern politics. It's not just about budgets or procedure, it's about whether America can still govern itself effectively in an era defined by mistrust and partisanship. As Halloween fades and November begins, the symbolism of the season feels strangely fitting. The ghosts haunting Washington are not fictional, they're political habits, institutional decay, and the fear of compromise. The government shutdown has revealed not only a legislative impasse but a moral one: leaders who would rather risk public hardship than risk political vulnerability. President Trump's call for the nuclear option underscores the growing impatience with tradition and process, while Senate caution reflects an equal fear of losing control of the future. In the end, the crisis will almost certainly resolve, perhaps through a temporary funding bill, a political concession, or simply exhaustion. But the deeper question remains: what kind of democracy emerges when every disagreement becomes a showdown and every negotiation a test of loyalty? The shutdown will pass, but the divisions that caused it will linger far longer. For millions of Americans caught in the middle, the hope is simple: that after all the noise, Washington remembers that governing is not about winning the argument, but about keeping the country running.